find fractions difficult? Don't you find that funny? Because you're all incredibly numerate, I can tell.
Okay, welcome. Hi, I'm Jens. I'm a computer scientist, and in recent last years, I more and more dived into psychological methods, and I more and more get an interest in how people actually learn. And so I started a small mission, and I was wondering, could we not just design digital media that they look impressive, but also help students to understand abstract concepts? And today I will focus on fractions. Fractions are the truly first concept students encounter. And to understand that, you need to understand magnitude, proportion, and spatial reasoning. But we often present fractions visually, for example, on a number line or a pizza chart. And I was wondering what happens if we not only look at it, but what happens when we walk on it. So the research question became, can a physical approach help learners understand fractions more intuitively? And today I will try to frame this into a small story. And these are the four actors. We have the learner, the body, the mind, and the designer. It should be me, but my classes are back in Germany, or I forgot them in Germany. Okay, but why are fractions actually so hard to learn? Fractions are considered as a key challenge in early mathematics, and typically introduced in grade 5. And many students still struggle what fractions actually mean, even if they have a formal instruction. For example, research shows that 25% out of 30-year-olds cannot place a fraction on a number line. So one reason might be that students rarely get the chance to physically explore fractions in the real world in a hands-on manner. And another reason is that the symbolic representation of fractions overlaps with the whole number thinking, and this could easily lead to misconceptions. In other words, fractions require learners to integrate symbolic, numerical, and spatial representation at the same time. And they are important for later success in mathematics, because many later concepts such as ratio, proportion, algebra directly build on fraction understanding. And this raises an interesting question for our actors. So, can the body help the mind of the learner to understand fractions better? To explore this idea, more systematically, we would briefly like a look at the embodied landscape from Julian Chapard. So, this landscape highlights three different ways of embodiment. So we have first the embodied cognition. The basic idea is what we do with our body can influence how we think and learn. In other words, the body can support the mind in understanding abstract concepts. And the second one is embodied in the action. This focuses more on the interaction design, how learners interact with objects in a physical and a virtual way, and how these interactions could support mean-making. And the third is embodied avatar embodiment. Here the focus is on the virtual representation of the avatar, which connects the physical movements to the digital world and influence engagement and perception. In our study, we only focus, or is based on the first two things, embodied cognition and embodied interaction. So in our story, you could think of a scenario like this. The learner tries to understand the concept. The mind is doing the conceptual work, and the body provides the action, and designer designs the interaction that connects them. So let me briefly go through the study design. So participants were paid for participation and could quit without any consequence at every time. We started with a short briefing and collecting basic demographic data and the math knowledge test. Participants then complete a short tutorial to really get familiarized with our system so that they do not have any cognitive load with the interaction during the study. After that, the fragment placement task started in the tablet condition and the embodied condition. To keep both conditions comparable, we choose also for the tablet version a VR version, so a VR implementation, so that we only manipulate the interaction and there is no influence from outside. So how does our environment look like? So we have the fraction bar in dark blue, grounded on the floor, and a fraction slider here depicted black. And whenever a user enters this bounding box, the interaction area, a ray points from the hip to the slider and indicates the position of the slider. And to confirm the position of the fraction, the right controller was used. So in this case, the fraction bar was over 2 meters, and we have the instruction panel with an indicator which adaptively adjusted the fractions based on the skills of the users, and we have a control panel where the users could submit their answers. So to evaluate our idea, we did an exploratory study. We had 68 participants, 26 years in mean, and 23 females. We choose a between subject design, and the task was to place the fractions, and the fractions were generated adaptively, and the users get direct feedback. We use the CAMEL items, cognitive affective model of immersive learning. They include motivation, self-agency, embodiment, presence, and we do the math ability and learning effect items. So yes, I expected really good results, but sometimes, yeah, reality looks a bit different as expected. But nonetheless, I would like to share some of the results we obtained. So when we look at the performance, we see that the placement, the users could place the fractions better in the embodied version than on the tablet version. And when we look at the presence, users were more present or felt more present in the embodied version than in the tablet version. And we thought that that could also work for embodiment, but in the embodiment we did not find any significance. And let me briefly go over the CAMEL icons. So you see the CAMEL icons, only the presence. We have found this significance for self-agency, interest in the action, environment, embodiment, motivation, and agency. Our embodiment version was a bit higher, but we did not find any further things. So what does this mean? Embodiment in the action improves accuracy and increases task time, of course, because they have to walk and we're not seated in this time. We also see that effects may depend on learners' characteristics. So when they are good in math, they of course can better place the fractions. And we have a possible ceiling effect due to our adults or students sample. And the limitations of our study was the short time assessment. We only, the study durate 12 minutes. we only use mainly adults, and just maybe the task was too simple. We only did a placement task and not a comparison or something like that. And what we want to do further, we want to analyze the movement strategies and want to see if we can maybe forecast if this is a good mathematic student or not. And we would like to improve our learning outcome measures. And at least we would like to, or currently we are working on a new representation of fractions where we combine a pizza chart and a number line in one representation, and we hope that that can help for embodied interaction in VR. So, yeah, thank you very much, and if there are any questions.
Questions? Yes?
Many questions, but we can talk about it later.
Okay.
But just now, I thought it was very interesting, but I'm a bit puzzled because I would say that the tablet task is also embodied at a different scale, but it's embodied because your hand is a reference of your body within that digital world. And I think that the edge of the tablet is also a very strong physical reference. Whereas here in the 3D world, you have no reference that relates you from a scale point of view from your body to the physical space. You only have a bar and you don't have any element that you know its size. And I think this relationship of scale could help in better defining the fractions. So we can talk about it.
Yeah, but you're totally right. This was an issue that when you move along this 20 centimeters tablet line, you also move. And what we want to improve in the next study, that we maybe just use a controller or something like that, that there's not that much movement, physical movement of the body. But yeah.
Time for one more quick question, and then we have our next presenter.
Thank you.
One, yeah.
Thank you for your presentation. I just want to know about the subjective measurement. Was it Likert scale, like motivation, interaction?
Yeah, we use the kernel from the cognitive affective model of immersive learning from Makansky. We used those items, so there were motivation when that we
Yeah, so what questionnaires you used for that purposes?
Kamil. So
Yeah.
from Makansky. So you can double check it in our paper. It's the cognitive affective model of immersive learning. There are these items like agency, motivation, self-efficiency, presence, interest. So we took those.
Okay. And do you have any plan for objective analysis, like for quantitative analysis, for this kind of like?
Yeah, we want to improve the math ability test, and we want to check if there is something like a long-term knowledge or gain.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.